Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Folks, we're going to talk about two stories here. One's a short story and one's a novel. But before I talk about that novel, I want to talk about the short story, Murder in Slushtime. Now this was in the Star Wars Adventure Journal number 14, and it's written by Barbara Hambly. Basically, Calista is on the planet Gamorrean, and she is trying to solve a murder mystery. A Gamorrean named Guth has been accused of murder, and Calista has been put on the case to solve the crime and figure out the whodunit. It's kind of weird story. What's Calista doing on Gamorrean? She's kind of stranded there at the moment, so she figures she'll help out. We don't know where she's been. Remember, she kind of disappears. She leaves Luke at the end of Darksaber, and we don't know where she's gone off to. She's trying to find herself, or she's lost her connection to the Force, and I guess she ends up on Gamorrean. Now, this story is interesting for one reason. It's that it takes place on the planet Gamorrean, which I don't know if any other story ever has taken place on that planet before. So it's a neat perspective of the planet that we don't know much of. We know a lot of the species. We've seen them before, especially in Return of the Jedi. But now we're getting to see a little bit of the planet and know that during Slushtime, it is horrible there. Sounds like Louisiana in the summer. Who wants to be there? But it's okay. It's not the best story. It's just a unique type of story, and I thought it was okay. Again, I like Calista, so there you go. Now, of course, this leads into the big novel that we're going to talk about today, which is Planet of Twilight, of course, written by Barbara Hambly. Now, Barbara Hambly, of course, had written Children of the Jedi, which introduced Calista, and now this is the end of the so-called Calista trilogy. It's the unofficial Calista trilogy. It was Children of the Jedi, Darksaber, written by Kevin J. Anderson, and then Barbara Hambly ties it back up with Planet of Twilight. Now, I was super excited when this came out. I was like, great, another Calista story. Let's see where this is going. But let's hear what the story is all about. First off, there's a war going on the planet, and even though the New Republic can't get involved, Leia feels kind of sorry for this, or feels a connection to this guy called Seti Ashgard. And so she goes to meet him above the planet, out in space. And what he does is he knocks her out, kidnaps her, and kills everyone on the Leia's ship with the coronavirus. I mean, the Death Seed plague. Now, Leia is then taken to Seti's cohorts, Beldorian the Hutt. There's a Hutt in this. And Dism. Now, I'm going to give a lot of spoilers here because I have to explain this book. But Dism is a highly evolved Drock, we find out. Drocks are like little grubs. They imagine like little ticks, they just suck the blood out of you. Well, that's what little Drocks are. But over the years, or whenever this Drock has evolved into a humanoid, really weird, but that's kind of how this story, the whole story is kind of weird. There's a Hutt hanging out there. They're on a planet Namchoris where, nothing's, they don't know, it's kind of an isolated planet. They're having trouble. They want a ship to get out there. Dism, his main plan is to go out there and release the Death Seed plague across the galaxy. It was a big black plague, like the Black Plague years ago, and he wants to create another pandemic. And we all know how well those things work out for the galaxy, don't we? But anyway, meanwhile, Luke has gotten a letter from Calista saying she is on that planet too. So Luke, of course, hightails it over there. And I think he crashes. I can't remember now, but I think he crashes on the planet. Anyway, he's on the planet, and this planet has a weird effect on the Force. The Force is super powerful on this planet. So even if he uses just a little bit of the Force, it creates a big Force storm, And this is a way to keep Luke from being too superpowered. We have the Luke problem again, where Luke's very powerful in the Force. How do we contain his power? Oh, let's put him on a planet where if he uses the Force, a Force storm will appear and it may kill people. So he needs to be careful about how he uses the Force. He can only use it in little bits. Now, how do they explain it? Why is the Force so impactful on that planet? It's even worse. There are these things called spook crystals. I am not making that up. Spook crystals, who are, oh boy, they're sentient too. So the spook crystals are telling Luke that, yeah, we've been here on the planet trying to keep the Drocks here on the planet isolated from the world because they want to release the Death Seed plague. And I mean, this kind of reads like an old Marvel comic story, doesn't it? So long story short, Luke and Calista meet back up. Yay, hey, we're together. Calista is not still with the Force. They still got issues they need to work through. Meanwhile, Leia is trying to escape out of her predicament. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit here. Bildorian the Hutt is a Jedi, a dark Jedi with a lightsaber, and he has a lightsaber match with Leia. Still not making any of this up. There's also a Moff that comes and tries to attack the planet, but then Dola comes to save them in a way. She's basically just chastising that Moff. He went off the range. He tried to grab his own power, and she's like, nah, not while I'm in charge of the Empire. And so she, knocks his little insurrection down and apologizes to them. And while she's on the planet, she finds her lost lover, Vorn. And it's like, and he was in the book the whole time, but then you find out, oh, they had a connection. They were lovers once. When? Dola was the lover of Tarkin for like years. I mean, maybe back in her teenage years, Vorn was her lover, or, before she went to, Daddy Warbucks, Daddy Tarkin Warbucks, so, ooh, he's a rich guy. I'm going to leave you for the old rich dude, Vorn. I don't know. I was like, I'm not really feeling this. Now, I know Kevin J. Anderson was okay with it because he and Barbara Hambly collaborated a lot during this, trilogy here. But they're trying to just tie it up and give Dola a happy ending, and probably in their mind they thought they were just writing off the character. I thought it was stupid, because here's Dola, who's just, she's climbing up the rung of power. She makes lots of mistakes, but she keeps stepping up. And all of a sudden she feels like, oh, I found true love. Now I can give up my plans. No, I'm fine that she finds love, but I thought that was just kind of weird. It didn't feel like her character. Her character is, well, Moff Tarkin is gone, Grand Moff Tarkin is gone. I'm trying to make my own destiny now. And it seems like she wouldn't have time for a personal life. That's just me. So for me, I thought, that's not a good ending for Dola. There's no good endings all around. Oh, by the way, it is kind of neat that Leia is in a lightsaber match. We hear that Leia's been training with Luke, lightsaber drills and everything, so she knows a little bit. We rarely get to see Leia wielding a lightsaber. I mean, it only happens a handful of times in the Bantam era, and this is one of them. And it was nice to see Leia, because Leia's not as strong in the Force, so she struggles a lot in it, where Luke probably wouldn't have struggled. But Leia being a Jedi, they just never made time for, because she had to work, she had the New Republic to run most of her time. So she didn't have time for most of her Jedi training. So it was nice to see Leia kind of take on the role of a Jedi in a way. That was kind of neat. But overall, the story is just not that good. In fact, it's pretty bad. And this is shocking to me, because I love Barbara Hambly. I think her short stories are pretty good. I thought Children of the Jedi was excellent. And Darksaber I thought was even better. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for Planet of Twilight, right? The story continues. And then you get to Planet of Twilight, you're like, wait, what? I understand also that authors are battling the Luke problem. He's too powerful. We need to do something. But man, Barbara Hambly's first excuse was that, he was using the Force too much and he kind of burned himself out, which, yeah, I get that. That I agree with. But this one's like, okay, let's put him on a planet that amplifies the Force through spook crystals. I'm sorry, I can't get over that name. I don't know, man. I just wasn't feeling that at all. Oh, and by the way, for Calista and Luke, they get together only to find out and discover that they're never destined to be. They're like, you know what? Maybe it's not destined for us to be together, because the fans really hate this. That's not what it said, but it should have just said that. It's like, Luke, I can't be with you. Why, Calista? Because the fans hate me. That's almost verbatim what she said. It really makes no sense after they've had such an epic, story so far, to just kind of drop it. Now, I know why they did that, because I'm sure Bantam or the fans or Lucasfilm was saying, hey, Calista Luke ain't working. You need to move on from that. Fans are outraged because it's got to be Luke and Mara Jade. It has to be Luke and Mara Jade or no one else. So they had to abandon the Calista story, and you can tell. This is, maybe Barbara Hambly wrote this book all pissed off. Maybe that's why it sucks. I don't know. But they have to break them up, and the breakup isn't believable either. But Calista is just, she can't connect to the Force, so she can't connect to Luke fully. I don't think Luke would be that shallow. Of course, Luke says, that's not the point, but then he realizes, yeah, Calista, you have your own destiny to follow, your own path. And, I got to go get some Mara Jade. No, he doesn't say that. That'd have been funny if he did. Anyway, the whole thing was kind of a letdown. After we built up a beautiful, wonderful character in Calista, it just kind of, the whole thing felt like just a bleh, you know, a mediocre, below mediocre ending. Planet of Twilight, not a good novel. Not a good one. A rare swing and a miss from Bantam. All right, folks, that's all the time I have for today. See you next time with another video.